And these numbers have been changing throughout the years. Isn't that so interesting? Do you know any other fact about the book publishing industry so far? You can maybe type it in the chat box or let us know about it. Well, our next session, that is session number 9, is about this thing only, the publishing industry and how it has been. And we have the moderator, Aditya Sharma. Aditya is a multi-themed author and anchor with expertise in areas like sports, education, and entertainment. He is the author of 2 books, The Fifth Empire and Beyond the TV 33 cinematic productions that transformed the silver screen. He now runs a successful talk show. Talk show name is The Weekly Show with Aditya, and since June 2018, the talk show has done 200 episodes with famous celebrities like Ketan Bhagat and Uday Singh Pawar. He is an alumnus of the Indian Institute of Mass Communication. So let us all welcome Aditya Sharma with his theme for the day. Aditya Sharma, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhavya, so much for the introduction. So now we are back with a different session after conversations about books and thrillers and romance and OTT. We are back to how books are published, where the source is. The source is the author, the first source is the author, and then the last source is the publisher, and there is a direct line between them. So if that line breaks, just like if there's no connection, if the phone connection breaks, then there could be a lot of trouble. So the author, the publisher, whether it's a traditional publisher or an independent publisher, all play an important role into the books you read. So everything starts from the author, the mind of the author, what the author has in mind, and then it's published into that concrete thing you see called the hard copy, or in the present times the electronic book, or moving on the audiobook. So let me welcome all my panelists. First is Indranil Mukherjee, and we all know about him, but let's get to know again. So Inun Mukherjee is a software professional turned novelist. He has published 3 books: Re-Kill, a novelette of crime and karma; The Station Master, a collection of 10 short stories based on real life experiences of the eponymous Station Master, which has been translated into Bengali and published by Ananda Publishers as Station Master; the novel Off the Pages, which is part dedicated to his idol and favorite author P.G. Wodehouse. He has been recognized as one of the top 20 debut authors in 2018 by Literature Slide, and has contributed a short story to their COVID-19 lockdown 1 anthology, Life in Lockdown. Let's move on to our second panelist. He is Dipankar Mukherjee, none other than Dipankar Mukherjee. He is the founder of Readomania Publishing, an established independent publisher in India. He has been instrumental in launching 150 plus books in less than 6 years. He takes a keen interest in grooming debut authors and teaches creative writing at many institutions. He also runs the Young Author Program for schools and colleges. A management graduate from IIT Madras, Dipankar had worked for the consulting industry for almost 8 years before starting his own ventures. He also has interest in hospitality, manufacturing, and consumer products. So welcome to Indranil and Dipankar. Our final panelist is Suhail Mathur, is an award-winning and best-selling author of the historical mythological fiction The Bhairav Putras and the mythological fantasy The Hunt for Rama's Bow, a TEDx speaker, and is one of the country's premier literary agents for his agency, The Book Bakers, through which he has worked on more than 700 books. He is the festival director of the largest and longest online literature festival, the Book Bakers Online Literature Festival, and has also worked as an English commentator for Star Sports and Airtel's mobile app. His name has also been listed as one of the top 51 Indian writers to follow by eBooks India, and called India's J.K. Rowling by NS Room and India's Rick Riordan by ED Times. He has sold several books to screen deals, worked with several actors, cricketers, and best-selling authors, apart from having written and worked on web series, TV shows, and animated series. He is currently working in a leading general entertainment channel where he looks into new show development and the acquisition of international animation shows, movies, and Indian live action content. His next three books, an autobiography of actor cricketer Salin Ankola titled No Boundary is Big Enough, a book on the first Dalit captain to lead a Hindu team to cricketing victory along with his brothers in pre-independent India, titled The Palwankar Brothers, and the true and epic tale of one of India's most successful undercover operations, titled Amarnath, The Unheard Tale of Operation Fox Hunt, are due to release in 21, 22, and 23. So I welcome all the panelists. And my first question is, how do you believe publishing in present times is different from what it was 3 to 4 decades ago? What has been the major change as far as publishing and the how publisher approaches an author and how an author looks at his book has changed?
Sure. Should I take that?
Yeah.
Sure. So I think Aditya, for starters, the number of publishers have gone up. Just before the session, the lady was mentioning about how many publishers there are, independent and traditional, as she was mentioning. So, spot on. And I think a lot of publishers. In fact, why even a decade or two back, even 6 to 7 years, the last 6 to 7 years, so many new publishing houses have come up. Who are doing some great work. And so what I feel is that one of the major changes that has happened is that with the number of publishers increasing, the scope for newer authors or more authors has come up, because earlier the options were limited. So either you got a deal or you did not. But now with the advent of so many publishers, the chances of getting a contract and a publishing deal have increased. That's one. Secondly, Flipkart and Amazon, can't really count them out. They are major sources of sale, and even till the late 2000s, their presence wasn't felt to that great an extent in the Indian publishing market in comparison to what it is today. Also, if I was to talk about my field, which is that of a literary agent, that is also pretty much fairly recent phenomena in the Indian setup, because obviously with the advent of more publishers, the need for literary agents was felt. So that too has been something that has happened probably in the last decade. So I think there have been a lot of changes in terms of what one used to see. And what I also feel is, Aditya, I think everyone will agree that a lot of commercial writers have come up. Say 15-20 years ago, the most commercial writer you probably had was, say, a Ruskin Bond or a Shobha Day. But now what happens is that a majority of the younger crop of writers, they're writing commercial fiction or non-fiction for that matter. So I think there's been an advent of newer writing which is more contemporary in nature.
Thank you, Suhail, for those points. And moving on to Dipankar sir, what has been your experience as far as being a publisher and an author is concerned over the past 2 to 3 decades?
Dipankar, you're on mute.
Mute.
Am I audible now?
No, it's fine. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and it's a pleasure to be here. Aditya, I wasn't around 2-3 decades back in the publishing field, so I wouldn't be able to tell you what was the scene then. I've been around for the last 6 years, and I can definitely tell you most of what Suhail mentioned the last 6 years or so has been true. I think it's a more democratic world right now in publishing. You don't have to cross the upper echelons or the highbrow so-called publishing barriers to get published now. Anybody can be a book, or anybody can publish a book rather, and create a good storyline if they have something interesting. Now the fight has shifted from publishing a book to marketing a book. So anybody can be a publisher or a published author, but can you, or do you have the might to market a book is a question now.
So continuing, okay.
Just one quick point. what Dipankar and Suhail both mentioned about the process has really become democratized. There's a lot of access that people have had, particularly with the advent of computerization and the availability, the network, internet availability. So people have far greater access. The other change which I have been noticing in the last few years has been the advent of audiobooks, which are really gaining a lot of popularity, which wouldn't have been something which maybe even a decade ago wasn't so much even heard of. But now it's fairly common, and people, particularly in markets abroad, there's a lot of push for moving into the audiobook space. There are plethora, and one indicator of that I can say is, a lot of these courses which are offered by various institutes or various companies to, how to set up an audiobook or how to market an audiobook, like Dipankar mentioned. Marketing has now become a major key. The other change which I would like definitely to point at is piracy. So that's one of the biggest challenges that I think is facing this industry. I don't know. I mean, I have been told, well, I used to work in Microsoft, and in one of the things that I learned over there was that Microsoft didn't go after the almost all of its softwares have always been pirated and sold. You go to Nehru Place in Delhi and you can get a software like MS Word, or rather MS Office, for $100. It used to be then. But Microsoft really did not go after the retail buyers because they thought they needed to own the marketing, own the market share. So that was more important than going after individuals. So they always went after the corporate stuff. So I don't know if piracy in books is something I would, for instance, if my books were selling in the pirated market, I have been told that I should take it as a compliment that my books are popular enough for somebody to, pick up and pirate and sell. So that's another challenge which I think the publishing industry and authors both need to understand how to deal with.
Right, so continuing on 2 points, piracy and marketing. How does piracy affect marketing of a genuine book? And how does piracy affect a publisher and a literary agent in terms of trying to secure that this book should not be in that negative space? And
so here you can start.
Yeah, I think Dipankar is the ideal person for this one.
Okay, so I think piracy.
I lost the question.
So in the question is now, Aditya is asking, how does piracy impact marketing and how does one ring fence? So in simple question, piracy brings down the budgets available for any publisher, marketing, and hence the activity go down. The activity goes down, so visibility goes down, and it's a cyclical process wherein the book tanks. Can you do something about piracy? Well, not really. I mean, you can, and I've done and I've tried and I've seen that it's too big a nexus for anybody to bother. There are larger wars to be won for a publisher at least. So they wouldn't bother. They will bother if there's something significant happening, but otherwise they don't really. It's difficult to stem it. They do all that is possible to stem it, but it's not always practically possible, and it's not a war they would like to indulge in at that point. Marketing is more important. They'll rather focus on marketing.
True. And also, I think as Dipankar mentioned, pirating, at obscure places. So to find out who these people actually are and, delisting a book is a fairly expensive process for the publisher and a time-consuming one too. So as he mentioned, you have to choose your battle wisely and see how things can pan out. Because I've seen some of these things happen. There could be people at obscure places, but there's nothing really much, a publisher can also do. I mean, they might put their legal team or, IT team to find out the source, but what next? I mean, legal matters in any case are very expensive. So how do you tackle these questions? I mean, in probably the amount they spend for the, legal matters, they may as well sell many books, so that's how it is.
It's really tough. It's really tough. I mean, to decide to go after, and there are so many of these fly-by-night, small-time operators who are like tucked away in some corner, and it's not even worth spending that time or money. But yes, the danger still lies.
Right, so moving on from the complexities of privacy and marketing. So, what is the major difference in how we market a book here and how we market a book abroad? I mean, is there any difference in terms of the methods used or any kind of special skill that is required?
Again, I'll start off here. I haven't marketed a book abroad, so I wouldn't know what's done there. But in India, marketing broadly is based on 3-4 pillars. One is PR, other is your visibility in stores, third is content. So these are 3 main pillars that people work on marketing. PR essentially is reach out to the influential people in press and in online medium to be able to carry the book. Content essentially is generate so much organic content over the net that it creates organic eyeballs, and visibility in the stores is something that's called distribution marketing, where you ensure that the book is visible in the right places in the market. So broadly, if you look at it, these 3 are the most important pillars of marketing for book.
Anything you would like to add, Suhail, on this?
So I think for us to go into what is important for marketing is to first realize that marketing in itself is very important, and this point is obviously directed towards authors, because sometimes what happens is that when younger authors come into the field, of first time authors come into the field, they may carry a notion that marketing is predominantly the job of a publisher. And I have made it amply clear to them that and in very simple terms, what is the practical reality, to be really honest. So one has to understand that publisher is probably releasing 4 books in a month, whereas an author is writing 1 book in a year. So a publisher can only give that much time to a book in terms of promotions, right? So a publisher's promotion is basically their distribution. How the author converts that into a sale is their marketing, which is equivalent to what actors are also doing these days. An actor's job doesn't end once they finished acting in the movie.
I don't know. For me, Suhail's image is frozen, and I can't.
The
hear
slide net issue. So I'll ask one more question. We can have him again. So how essential is PR about the author versus PR about the book and its content?
Indranil hasn't answered the first question. Let him have a take on
Okay,
marketing.
all right.
It's the author's perspective.
Okay.
See, when I came in, like Suhail was mentioning, when I first got my book out, my idea was that it is now the publisher's baby and the publisher will take care of the marketing and all that. And it didn't turn out to be quite like that. It was completely the way that Suhail was talking about it. It involved the author to be with the marketing team and do his own bit. So one of the things that I kind of started getting into, and I was extremely bad at it, I still think I'm pretty bad at it, is to use the social media, leverage the social media and use that to reach people, to put the book in front. Because as an author, I believe my work is worth a read. But how do I get an unknown person to look at my book without having a name? So like Aditya was saying, so should the marketing be for the name or should the marketing be for the book? I don't think you can really dissociate them altogether. Well, the content has to be the best thing for that particular book. The name, like for instance, if I were to quote the perennial example of Chetan Bhagat, when Chetan Bhagat is releasing a book, it is Chetan Bhagat releasing a book. The book comes later in the picture. It is the name of the author. So he's an established big brand. Amish releases a book. It is Amish releasing a book. So, but when I'm releasing a book, who am I? I mean, I'm not known. So it's a chicken and egg kind of a situation for an author. And if an author is expected to pump in money, and it's a fair expectation, I agree. But how much is what one can go in? And I have struggled with that bit. So I try to use a lot of social media with very iffy kind of outcome for it.
So
Dipankar.
I'll just mention one point here. I mean, this is a standard easy way out. Pour in money, you should get eyeballs. That's all bullshit. There are 2 things that you need to consider. One is eyeballs and other is sales. They may or may not be equal to each other. Okay, so just because you pump in market money into marketing, don't expect your book to sell. So
Absolutely.
in the whole game, what we have realized is the most important marketing tool ends up becoming the author's fan base. So if you ask me a question that whether you invest in your own profile or in the book title, I would say leave the book title to the publisher and invest in your own profile. When you build your profile over time, you would build a name that draws attention, that draws even the publisher back to you. So your money should go primarily into investing in your own brand. Let the
The name
publisher invest in the book.
makes sense actually, because if you're in for the long game, then that definitely is where
Yes.
you should focus on. I agree.
We have time for one more question. And with audiobooks and books being adapted to movies and TV shows and such productions becoming a rage over the past 3-4 years, how does that change a publisher accepting a book, and how does it change an author's mindset? Because if you think that my book could be converted into a movie, and if a publisher thinks that I can also market from the point of view of in that direction, how does it change the content and your marketing and accepting a manuscript process?
So if I may just take that quickly. So see, Aditya, most of the authors believe that the book can be turned into a visual adaptation, right? So that is a universal phenomena. I mean, 99% feel that the book can be made into a very good movie or a web series, and they're not wrong because they have some good content for sure. Earlier what used to happen was that if a production house had optioned the rights of a particular book, it became slightly easier to sell the book because the publishers felt that it's been taken up by a production house, the chances of it coming on screen might be more, and even though they may not be part of the initial deal, at least when the book comes, when the adaptation comes on screen, the chances for sales might increase. But as everyone has seen in the recent past, the conversion is actually a major problem. So 90% or 95% of the books don't reach the stage from an option to an acquisition, to be really honest. And I think that's something that the publishers have also understood now. So the point is that nowadays it actually sometimes works contrary, unless they feel that the book per se will sell a lot. Because what happens is that they feel that a book may not be turned into anything, and the only way a publisher could have made money was to be a part of that AV deal, and they haven't been a part of the AV deal either. So of what benefit or what importance is that book then to them? And they're right. I mean, everyone has to see their interests too. So unless they feel that the book on its own will sell a lot, then they may take it up. So that's been a change as far as the thinking is concerned. Sometimes authors themselves after getting a book deal start feeling that all their books are going to get book deals, so they come up with certain pointers that we are not going to give AV rights to you, we are not going to give AV rights to the publisher, so on and so forth. But as the case is, I think sometimes other parties also help in getting deals, so it's always in the better interest of the author to have multiple people over there, because you never know who may strike the deal for you and you may get the advantage.
So one final, Indranil sir.
Sorry, I have a question really for the forum, and it's not connected to your last question or Suhail's answer. So if Dipankar or you have something to say about what Suhail said, please go ahead. I'll just pose my question immediately after.
No, go ahead with the question, Indranil.
Oh, okay. Thanks. So I am I have been observing, and I'm very concerned with the way that reviews of books appear. And one of the problems over there is, again, fake reviews or paid for reviews. I have been approached by, I don't know how many such people offering to write reviews for me the way that I want for a consideration. So as a publisher yourself, Dipankar, and as agent and writer and everything, you, Suhail, and Aditya, of course, as the moderator, how do you consider reviews or fake reviews, the importance of reviews, and how do you deal with fake reviews?
Okay.
Sorry,
so see, yeah, I'll just quickly share my points. So I think fake reviews become a problem if they're negative, because negative fake reviews also happen. And many times what happens is that, someone may not like someone in real life and they'll go and put a 1-star rating over there without even having read the book and say that it's the worst book ever, right? So that is also one side to it. With respect to the kind of reviews you are mentioning, and while we all know about it, the point is that nobody can pinpoint, and say that, hey, you've got fake reviews. So if you're seeing 200 reviews on Amazon, for example, you may think, internally that, so and so must have got these reviews through reviewers, but there's no mechanism to find out whether they have or they have not, because that's an option the author has exercised. Now, what that basically does is that when you're doing your next work, right, and the publisher looks at your script, and generally what happens is that publishers want to see how the earlier book has performed. So when they see that a particular book has so many reviews, what they'll feel is that, okay, this author has some sales potential, so we should sign them up. Now, because publishers also know what's happening in this situation, they may be understanding that probably all these reviews may not be organic. But what that also makes them understand is that here is an author who's willing to market and promote and invest in their book, to create that hype. So if they're able to do that, it may result in sales for their book. Not every publisher may think like that, but a majority do, because at the end of the day, a previous book is just going to act as a catalyst. The publisher for the concerned work is interested in seeing how sales for that book will, pan out eventually.
Okay,
So
it's not
an idealistic answer, but it's a practical situation as to what's happening right now.
So thank you, Suhail, for the interesting question, and I could thank all the panelists for being here this evening. And okay,
Dipankar would like to add something quickly?
because we have just
time.
Yeah, that's the thing. But we can
sure there would
obviously
be.
have a
Yeah, but
discussion.
this conversation, I have a feeling it was just getting started.
Just getting started. Because being an author, I also think that sometimes reviews can have negative impact, positive impact. So basically, what we have learned here is that content is king. If the author can write good content, the publisher
And the
will
author
make
is willing to invest in his
willing
work.
to invest. Then everyone else will be willing to partner with you. And if
All
that
publicity
works,
is good
then
publicity.
and the first thing is
Investment, I
not
would
to
say,
be
not blind investments. Intelligently working on a plan, not really going off something. And
the
I think
first-
in one single line, I would say any visibility is good visibility. Okay, it's not your job to go and tell who's fake, who's not. Just go with it. As long as the reviewer's content is in line with your content. If the reviewer's English is poorer than yours, you think twice. If the reviewer's book categories are different from yours, like yours is literary and they are doing commercial, not fit in, understand that the reviewer also has an audience. So ensure that you will check the audience and then use the reviewer. Don't blame the reviewer after you use the reviewer.
So thank you, Dipankar sir, Suhail and Indranil sir for being with us this evening, and it was a very
Loved it.
engaging discussion, and there's so much to discuss that can go on for millennia, because this discussion may not even change 20 years from now. It's the author starts with the content and only then you can move. If there's no content, no one can do anything, and content is all about how the author thinks. So thank you so much, and with this we end this very engaging and dynamic panel discussion. And with this, I'll hand over the stage to our energetic MC, Bhavya.